Every morning, over 400,000 Catholic priests around the world arise to answer the call to serve God and neighbor. This story is of one humble priest who, amidst the life or death struggle to save his homeland, the fabled island of Malta, found his vocation not only to serve his faith, but to stand steadfast against darkness and oppression. This is the journey of Cardinal Grech, who served as an anti-aircraft gunner of the Malta Home Guard during World War II, prior to his entry into the Augustinian order. The year was 1940, as the Second World War swept through Europe. Malta, a tiny island in the Mediterranean, became one of the most heavily bombarded places in the world. Positioned between Europe and North Africa, Malta was a critical stronghold. It's said that whoever held Malta held the Mediterranean. Malta provided a base from which British air and sea forces could attack Axis ships transporting supplies and reinforcements from Europe to North Africa. General Erwin Rommel, the de facto field commander of Panzer Army Africa in North Africa, recognized its importance quickly. In May 1941, he warned that without Malta, all German and Italian efforts to control the Mediterranean would be doomed. For nearly 2 years, Axis forces laid siege to Malta, their bombers unleashing a ceaseless rain of destruction on the island's ports, airfields and towns. As wave after wave of Axis bombers filled the skies above Malta, the people had little choice but to retreat underground. Families, neighbors and strangers huddled together in makeshift shelters carved into the island's rocky terrain. In the suffocating darkness, they clung to one another for solace, their prayers often drowned out by the deafening sounds of bombs falling overhead. For months and then years, this became their way of life. Children learned to recognize the piercing wail of air raid sirens as a signal to run, not to the safety of their homes, but to the damp, crowded tunnels below. Fear became a constant companion, gnawing away at their sense of normalcy. The psychological toll was profound. Every step outside was shadowed by the possibility of destruction. Every night filled with dreams of chaos. Yet through it all, the people of Malta endured. Their resilience became a shield, their faith a source of light in the unrelenting darkness of war. Among the people who faced these endless attacks was young Stanley Grech, soon to be known as Grech, who had joined the Royal Malta Artillery as a gunner. With every shell and bomb that fell, he saw the fierce resolve of his people to protect their homeland and faith.
The worst part of the war in Malta was famine, where we were blockaded. And to supply Malta, the British lost so many lives. A convoy would lead of about 14 ships would leave Gibraltar, be bombed on the way, and 2 or 3 ships would come in. And they would supply Malta, say, for about a month. With a lack of ammunition, especially ammunition, and food, of course. Ammunition, some guns were rationed to 5 rounds a day, which could be shot in 5 minutes. And 3 rounds to defend one's own gun. Then the bombings tried to neutralize the submarine bases, and they succeeded. Actually, there was a time when within 10, 15 days we should have surrendered.
As wave after wave of Luftwaffe bombers dropped over 30,000 pounds of explosives on Malta, the island's only defence came from its 230 anti-aircraft guns. For Prospero and his fellow gunners, the task was grueling. Constant raids, fast-moving aircraft, and limited gun range meant they often fired half-blind barrages rather than aiming at specific targets. Despite shortages of ammunition and equipment, Grech and his comrades managed to shoot down more than 500 German and Italian planes over the course of the war.
We frequented church, and there was our army chaplain who wore his tin hat and came on the batteries, perhaps just to prevent us from swearing or not swearing too much. But we were conscious, of course, that we were at the hands of God. One was on the right side, and that we were just defending ourselves, and that in a way was reason enough to go on.
On the afternoon of April 9th, 1942, as the war raged, the town of Mostar in Malta faced a harrowing moment. At approximately 4:40 p.m., during intense aerial bombardment, a 500-kilogram bomb dropped by the Luftwaffe pierced the majestic dome of the Rotunda of Mostar, a marvelous 19th-century Catholic church where roughly 300 parishioners had gathered for early evening mass. Astonishingly, the bomb did not detonate. It crashed through the dome, landed amidst the congregation, then skidded across the floor before coming to a halt. Miraculously, no injuries occurred. To the stunned worshippers, this shielding was a clear demonstration of divine providence. Following the incident, a Royal Engineers bomb disposal unit safely removed the unexploded ordnance. Today, a replica of the bomb is displayed in the sacristy of the Rotunda, serving as a lasting testament to what many consider a miraculous event during one of Malta's darkest periods. By 1942, Adolf Hitler and the German High Command were desperate to take Malta. The English ships that were harbored safely in Maltese ports were wreaking havoc on German and Italian supply lines to and from North Africa.
Food was rationed, but then in every little town or village, there were what we used to call victory kitchens. That means common kitchens. And everybody lined up from the peasant's wife to the last maid to get whatever there was. Some spaghetti or goat's meat, or I don't know, perhaps even dogs and cats' meat. We just don't know. But anyway, it was just enough to keep us alive. Just enough to keep us alive.
In the summer of 1942, the Germans began increasing aerial bombardment on the island to soften it for a full-scale invasion. But the determined Maltese defences remained strong and inflicted significant losses on Hermann Göring's Luftwaffe forces, ultimately proving that Operation Hercules, the joint German-Italian all-out assault on Malta, would not be worth the tremendous losses it would cost to take the island. The gallant defiance shown by Prospero Grech and the Maltese gunners helped stave off the island's sure destruction. The siege of Malta left lasting scars on both the island and its people. Malta had become a fortress of resilience in the face of relentless bombardment, but the human cost was steep. The country lost a third of its 250,000 inhabitants, families were torn apart, cities were reduced to rubble, and an entire generation grew up with memories of air raids and destruction.
And in the meantime, then, the British awarded us the George Cross. That means a cross for valor, not for soldiers, but for civilians. It was equivalent to the Victoria Cross for soldiers. And that's also represented in our flag. Our flag is red outside, white inside, with the George Cross on it.
For Prospero Grech, the horrors of war etched themselves into his memory, shaping him profoundly. The experiences he endured would follow him long after the last bomb had fallen. A vivid reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring strength of faith.
You know, the War makes you think much deeper. I still have the smelling of burnt pilots, flesh of burnt pilots in my nostrils in a way. And sometimes I still get sort of nightmares about the bombing.
These memories marked a turning point in his life. In the ashes of destruction, Grech found a deeper calling. The horrors he witnessed didn't lead him to despair, but inspired him to a life of service. He saw firsthand the need for faith and hope, not just as a refuge, but as a light in the world's darkest hours. Faith became the steadying force for the Maltese people. Even during the air raids, the church and its clergy were present, ministering to the fearful and wounded. For young Prospero, the brutal experiences of war deepened his sense of purpose and calling. He began to understand in a visceral way the calling to be both a protector of his people and a messenger of hope.
You start asking, what's the purpose of life and etc. And as I had some sort of idea of becoming a priest when I was a young boy, the idea came back. So as the siege was practically over, I got the release from the army and joined the Augustinians then. I spent 3 years with the Augustinians in Malta, and then was sent to Rome in 1946. And there I did my theology and my degrees, etc. Came back in 1954, spent another 2 years in Malta, then went to England and to both Oxford and Cambridge, and back to Malta for about 2 years, and then back to Rome, and I stayed there ever since.
After the war, Prospero's journey continued at the Basilica of St. John Lateran in Rome. He was ordained, dedicating his life to God. The challenges he had faced during the war refined his spirit, preparing him for his lifelong ministry. His calling as a priest was not simply to minister, but to serve as a testament of resilience, embodying the power of faith in hardship. The life of a priest, like that of Cardinal Grech, is one of unwavering commitment. Every priest is called to be a pillar of strength and faith for their community, often without recognition or ease. The Catholic faith understands the role of the clergy as not merely religious, but as spiritual shepherds in times of both joy and strife. Cardinal Grech's journey reminds us that being a priest, being a servant of God, is not without trials. Every priest, no matter where he serves, faces moments of solitude, sacrifice, and challenge. Yet it is in these moments that a priest's purpose shines through most brilliantly. In 2012, Pope Benedict XVI elevated Prospero Grech to the rank of Cardinal, a rare honor for Malta and for the Augustinian order. But with this honor came a reminder of the humility and selflessness required of the clergy. Cardinal Grech understood that his service would continue to demand all he could give and more. Prior to the conclave of 2013 that elected Pope Francis, Cardinal Grech gave the remarks to the College of Cardinals concerning their obligations and how each round of voting would take place. Cardinal Grech's life stands as a beacon to today's priests and to all who serve. His journey illustrates that faith, resilience, and humility are not just virtues to admire, but the very foundation of the Church's mission. To those answering the call of the priesthood today, he offers a legacy of encouragement and strength.